Welcome to Charged Google It. I am Jonathan and I am joined by Reverend Esther Fryer, and we're going to be over a series answering the most searched questions about Christianity. And our first question is, what does Christianity mean? So Esther, what does Christianity mean?
Well, I think I will start by saying the magic word in that is Christ. Christian. Christianity at its heart is about Jesus opening a way for us to be with God. When my children started playing football, I started explaining it like this. I adore my children. I love them when they are clean. I love them when they are dirty. But I have to tell you that after playing football in the mud and them coming home completely covered, I do not want them to have the freedom to walk around my house or to touch me, to be absolutely honest with you. So this is what happened. They came home, I think it was the first time, and I looked at them at the door and I went, stop. And I got them to take off their outer garments. And I said, you march straight up to the shower room. Do not touch anything. And they were not allowed to have freedom to, in a sense, be in a relationship with me, or to have a free roam in my house while they were dirty. But as soon as they were clean again, that freedom was restored. And in the same way, God loves us whether we are clean or dirty. But if we are to be free to have a relationship with Him, free to roam in His house, if you like, we need to be cleaned, and that's where Christ comes in. Some of you would have heard this, but on the cross, it's as if Jesus enables us to take a shower, metaphorically speaking. Through His sacrifice, He takes on Himself our dirt, or the word that Christians use is sin. He takes upon Himself our sin, which keeps us away from God and from the freedom to be in His house forever. He washes us clean and makes that relationship possible.
So how can people, they'll be thinking, how can I feel this? How can I know that God is cleansing me in that way?
That's a really good question. And I think the way to answer that, which you might not like, Jonathan, is a little word called faith. There's a lot about how we relate to God that really depends on us trusting that He is true to His word. And so the things that God has been at pains to say to us is that He loves us, that He wants to be in a relationship with us, that sin is a problem that needs sorting, that His own Son paid the price to sort it out, and that if we take Him at His word, it is as simple as, and in some ways as complicated as, simply welcoming Jesus into your life. Simply saying, Jesus, I believe that you lived, you died, you rose again, and I believe that that whole gig was for me, and I want you in my life. It's as simple as that.
And so people will be thinking, if they've done sins, and then they'll think that they can't almost be welcomed. How can they be reassured that of that forgiveness?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Well, here's the thing. I've been a Christian for over 25 years, and I am a sinner. So my description as a sinner is not a thing of the past. but I am a sinner who knows that she is absolutely loved by Jesus. So the thing about sin is that as human beings, we all sin. There's absolutely nothing that I can do to change that in a way. But God loving me and forgiving me isn't dependent on me. It's dependent on Jesus. So there's another little word that I love, which is named after our grace, or grace is named after the word. Grace, which is often described as unmerited favor. So when you get not what you deserve. So what we deserve is condemnation, but through Jesus, what God gives us is favor. So we are back to that little word, I guess, faith, which is take him at his word. He says, all have sinned, all of us, me included, the Vicar of St. John's Egham, complete sinner. There's absolutely nothing I can do to earn God's love. And in Jesus, there's absolutely nothing I can do to lose his love. And all of that I receive by faith, flowing from the grace of God, who chooses to give me his favor rather than his condemnation. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when people will think that even if they've committed sins, that they can still be welcomed. So what are the first steps that they can take to getting that forgiveness, and how can they so what can they do at church to feel that those sins have been forgiven?
Okay. There is a verse in Revelation that has inspired a painting, and if it's possible to show it, that would be really great. It's of Jesus knocking on a door, and people that looked at the painting commented that there wasn't a handle on the door, and that's because the artist wants to convey that the handle is on the inside. And your questions, I think, Jonathan, come from a common thing that people have, that it sounds too simple.
Mm-hmm.
But really, it is that simple because the huge price, the huge cost of being reconciled to God has been paid by Jesus. So the first step is to maybe take this conversation as the sound of that knock. Hear it as God saying, I'm here, I love you, I want to be a part of your life.
Mm-hmm.
And metaphorically, reaching for the door that's inside your heart,
mm-hmm.
and opening it and saying, Jesus, come into my life.
Mm-hmm.
Even as young as I am, I know I'm not perfect. I can recognize that there's something about God that is holy,
Mm-hmm.
and there's something about me that's not holy.
Mm-hmm.
I don't need to know your secrets to know that you recognize that description
Mm-hmm.
of yourself,
Mm-hmm.
of your friends.
Mm-hmm.
And that gap between us, between his holiness and my unholiness, can only be bridged by the cross of Christ.
Mm-hmm.
And it's as simple as that, accepting that the God-man Jesus
Mm-hmm.
chose to lay on that cross
Mm-hmm.
to provide a bridge for us to be on God's side, if I can put it like that. But back to the painting, it is as simple as opening the
Mm-hmm.
door to your heart and welcoming Jesus in.
And that's something that can be done internally. Like, people will think, if I can't go to a church, if I have no access to a Bible, that doesn't necessarily mean that you can't be welcomed in. You can. This is all in the mind and
Absolutely.
in the heart.
Absolutely. So you don't have to welcome Jesus in a church building. I didn't. I was outside at a camp and I heard that knock. I didn't even tell anyone in that first instance. It was a private conversation between God and me. I saw Jesus and I saw his love for me, and I saw what I could become in him. And I thought, my goodness, I want this. And just quietly in my heart, in that moment, I said, Jesus, I want to give you my life. And I have to tell you that I sat down one person and I got up a completely different person. And after that, I couldn't help myself and I told everyone. And actually after that, I couldn't help myself but go to church because I wanted to be with other people who love Jesus. And after that, I couldn't help myself but I wanted to serve. I wanted to tell other people about Jesus. It was like an overflowing river. But in the first instance, I was outside around a campfire, and it was a private conversation between Jesus and me. And that was on the 31st of March, 1994. And my life has never been the same since.
So people will be thinking, are they waiting to be spoken to, or do they ask to be spoken to themselves and then talk?
I think that watching something like this, take that as God speaking to you. It doesn't have to be more mysterious than that. It doesn't have to be a booming voice like in Evan Almighty or something. It can be a conversation that someone is having with you. It can be while you're reading the Bible by yourself. It can be you listen to a Christian song and something happens to your heart. So I would say, if at any moment your awareness of God is raised, either in your thinking or in your conversation, take that as God knocking, and take that opportunity to say yes and open the door.
Because then I think some people might think, this has happened to me. This has happened in the past, and maybe I didn't notice it then. So then they would now want to do things like more things at church, more interaction like with Christianity. And then how do they, in a way, become part of this community?
That's a really good question. So if you're a young person watching this, we have a wonderful youth team and a lay pastor called Grace, and she is absolutely lovely. And I know it takes courage to make that first step. But if you're on your own and you don't know anyone in the St. John's Church community, speak to your parent carer and say, will you help me get in touch with Grace, because I want to find my way to a church community. So I would say that to that sort of person. But if you are someone who knows someone who is part of the St. John's community, I would say, again, be brave enough to call your friend and say, I want to be a bit more involved in church. The next time there's something going on, can I come with you? And at the moment, we're hoping to start in-person stuff outside with the young people. But a lot of the stuff we've been doing has been online, on Zoom. If you look at our Facebook page, our Instagram page, you'll find lots of information there. And get involved, just take that first step. I know you like sport, and once you're part of a team, it's so easy, isn't it? But that first time, the first time you join a new cricket club or the first time you join a new football club, it's scary. And I don't want to lie, it is a bit scary. But we know from experience that once we've taken that first step and we're part of a community, we forget how scary it was. And the richness of being part of a team
Yeah.
eclipses that. And if you can take that sense of joy of being part of a sport team and multiply it a gazillion times, that's what it feels like to be part of a church family.
Even if someone's a bit shyer and they maybe are worried about how, if they don't know people, so say people were all in the church room and there is that opportunity for them to just say to a church pastor or something, just say, can you say a prayer for me? Can you do those?
Absolutely.
And that kind of needs to be taken into consideration, because it's not necessarily, oh, if you join this community then you have to do all of these things with other people. This is still about you talking to God and listening.
Yeah. You've really, really got that to the bottom of it with that little statement. Absolutely. And the rest of us are here as fellow learners on the journey, and we're here to support you if you want us to. We certainly won't force ourselves on you. God doesn't force himself on us, which is why I love that painting. The handle is on the inside. I think what we would be saying is, we are here if you need us. We are here if you want us. We want to help you with this. We want you to flourish. We want you to really get to grips with your relationship with God. But we're not going to enter your personal space without permission. We're not going to force ourselves on you. We're not going to create awkward spaces where you're forced to speak or you're forced to, to be a part of something you're not comfortable with. So yes, I think at St. John's, we are really committed to creating safe spaces for people to explore their faith at the pace that suits them, in the ways that suit them. We won't always get it right, but that's definitely our intention.
Thank you, Esther. That was brilliant. If you could summarise in one sentence the key question of the day, what does Christianity mean?
I think I would say God loves you, and Jesus made sure that you would know that on the cross.
Thank you for joining us. Join us for the next one in this series, where we'll be finding out, what does Christianity